Disco Elysium is one of the most unique RPGs to come out in recent memory. By labeling itself a detective RPG, first-time game developer Zaum hopes to breathe new life into the RPG genre by combining classic tabletop mechanics with one of the most well-executed and believable detective stories I have ever experienced myself. Before I go any further, I want to start this video out by saying, if you plan on playing Disco Elysium, or are leaning on the fence towards playing it, let me give you that push by saying this. Stop watching this PoopBro video right now and go play Disco Elysium immediately, because it's a game that I believe the less you know about it going in, the better. Imagine an RPG where a jacket that makes you look more intimidating or rubber gloves used for gardening are more useful than a suit of orichalcum armor or a two-handed buster sword. Oh, come on, you're still not convinced? Then let's dive in. The game begins as you wake up with a horrible hangover, no clothes on, and most importantly, no memory. Your hotel room has been smashed to pieces. You put your clothes on and wander into the hallway, only to be greeted by a woman who more or less explains that last night you were making an ass of yourself to everyone downstairs in a drunken rage, the extent of which I will not get into here, winky face. How you respond to information like this is what defines your character. Are you sorry about it? Do you make excuses? Are you cocky about it? All of these choices will be what determines how characters in this world will interact with you and how you operate. Oh, by the way, you also figure out from that woman that you are a cop, or at least you've been claiming to be one since you've got here. And you're here to solve a murder! As you make your way downstairs, you're greeted by one of my favorite characters of all time, Kim Kitsuragi. He's been assigned to be your partner from a different precinct, and this is his first time meeting you. This is also the moment you realize that you don't remember your name either. You can try to play it cool like, oh, let's get into names later.
Okay then.
Or be completely honest and unload all of your problems onto Kim. All of this is your choice, and all of it has an effect on how people treat you and what you can and can't do with them. Let me try to explain. When you start a new game, you are prompted to choose your detective archetype. The game's going to put you in a lot of different scenarios with a large number of possible results. This is where you decide how you think you're going to be detectiving your way out of said scenarios. I did a sensitive detective who could read and relate to almost anybody, but wasn't very strong, or very smart for that matter. I found myself sucking up to people in ways that I really didn't intend to.
Yes, I've heard that you've become Measurehead's race pupil. Oh.
After you choose an archetype, you are brought to the signature skills menu. This is the meat and potatoes of the game as far as its RPG's elements go. It's a lot to take in, but every one of these little faces is part of your brain, and whichever skills you decide to invest your points in whenever you level up is what's going to determine which inner monologue is going to speak up the most during the game.
Yes. Authority. Feverish thoughts race through your mind.
As well as give you advantages on dice rolls. Yeah, that's right, dice rolls. You heard me say tabletop elements earlier, right? Any step you take that would require some kind of skill is decided by a dice roll. But don't worry if you fail a dice roll that you really wanted to get. The game is built with this in mind, and you are encouraged to find other solutions whenever you fail. In fact, something that you're going to get used to pretty quickly is how much of a loser you kind of are. Disco Elysium's world was originally conceived by Robert Kurvitz, an Estonian author, in his book
Puhaja Udnalon,
or Sacred and Terrible Air in English. A few years after the success of his book, He founded Games to continue his artistic vision. The game takes place in the town of Ravishal, which is quite literally covered from head to toe in juicy lore. The town itself was the battleground of a political uprising about 40 years before the game takes place, and it really feels like it. Ravishal has so much attention to detail and care put into it that if you wanted to, you could learn exactly how the war started, why, and how it ended. It's not surprising that the creator is already an accomplished novelist who was also obsessed with tabletop RPGs growing up. Nearly every detail of the game feels accounted for. I believe that Disco Elysium's main export is its characters. They absolutely ooze with charm and personality from every orifice of their body. Kim, for example, if you decide to unload on him when you first meet him, has the perfect answer for everything to keep you going.
We all feel that way sometimes. There is no such thing as a police officer, I'm afraid. What remains is that there is a dead body in the tree. Someone has to figure out who put it there. If we don't, no one else will.
He refuses to lose his cool, even when he begins to realize how much of a shitstorm he's really walking into.
Have you removed the dead body from the tree? So, the body is still in the tree, where it has been hanging for 7 days straight. We should go there as soon as we are done talking to the owner.
When the game originally came out in 2019, Kim was the only one that had all of his lines voiced. But when the final cut came out in March 2021, the game became fully voice acted. The fan favorite that wasn't there before seems to be Linval Brown's role as the inner monologue.
By your side, the lieutenant keeps his hand away from his holster. You hear the nylon of his coat hiss as he steps closer. Easy. Walk back from the provocation. They're armed, and they outnumber us. The lieutenant tries to establish eye contact with you.
Instead of the game's main focus being on combat, it's more often than not revolving around interrogations and information gathering. Sometimes you'll say just the right thing and utilize the right skill to get exactly what you want out of someone. Other times, you'll hit a brick wall and be forced to come back with more information. These are usually defined as white checks, meaning you can try this dialogue option or action again later by leveling up a skill or learning a new piece of information. Other times, at the game's highest point, you are locked into a confrontation with someone. Usually, you'll only have one shot on a big dice roll. You just have to pick what skill you've leveled up the best for the current situation. This is what the game refers to as red checks. Some of these confrontations were so tense that they had me pacing around the house like I was waiting on my first child to be born. Disco Elysium attempts to present gamers with the real-life conundrum of being a homicide detective. Alcoholism and addiction are not just encouraged in the game, but in some playthroughs it will be required to buff certain skills or retry white checks. When Disco Elysium isn't bumming you out, it's making you laugh hysterically. Just when you think you couldn't be a bigger failure, you'll make a big break in the case that changes everything. These constant ups and downs make the game feel very human to me. Going through this adventure with Kim made me feel like he was literally my best friend who I would do anything for. Disco Elysium may be the most fleshed out and accurate depiction of what being a homicide detective is actually like. Anyone who likes detective dramas or tabletop RPGs in general should put this game on their must-play list and witness the magic of a true tequila sunset.